In today's video, you're going to learn how to create this layered paper texture effect with Photoshop. So first you'll learn how to create the outline of the text, then add the layered text effect within the font. So all of these steps are really easy to take, so watch until the end of the video and you'll have an image that will look just like this. And if you like these types of videos, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. So with that said, let's get started with today's video. So we're going to start by creating the document first. So let's go into Photoshop and click on Create New. And for the width and the height, we're going to leave it at 1500 pixels. The resolution should be 72 pixels per inch, and the color mode should be on RGB and 8-bit. And leave the background content as white and leave all the advanced options as it is. So let's click on Create, and you should have a white document. So it should be white and square. And if you don't see this layers panel on the right hand side, just go into Windows and click on layers right here. So I'm going to open a new layer and I'm going to rename this new layer by double clicking on it, and I'll just rename it to letter. Next, go into the text tool right here on the left hand side, and you need to pick a font. So the fonts that you can pick are right here at the top, and you should pick a font that has some rounded corners in it. So you can pick any font that you want, but I'm going to choose this one called Calibri. So I'm going to click right here in the middle of the canvas, and I'm going to type in two letters, an uppercase A and a lowercase a. And then if you want to make this bigger, you can press Ctrl T or Command T if you're in a Mac, and make sure you're on the letter layer. So you'll have all of these controls when you press Ctrl T or Command T, and you just simply click and drag from one of the corners and you can make it bigger. So make it as big as you want. So just place it right in the middle of the canvas and hit enter. So you should also make it bold as well. So let's say this is the boldest you can make it. So this is the boldest that I can make this font right here, but I want it to be even more bold. So there's one trick that we can do with that. So if you press and hold Control or Command if you're on a Mac and click inside the letter box right here. So that's the little T box inside the layer box. So what that does is it just selects everything within that layer. So everything within that layer is the two letters. So just selected everything within that layer, which is that dashed line. So now if I hide this layer by clicking on the eye icon, we're still left with the outline. So we don't need the letters anymore, we just have this outline. So now let's create a new layer, and I'm going to rename this to bold letter, or I should say bold letters. Then we're going to go up to select and then go down to modify and then click on expand. So we're going to expand this selection, and we're going to expand it by 10 pixels. So right here where it says expand by, just type in 10 and click on OK. Now you can see it actually got a bit bolder. So if it's not bold enough for you, you can expand it by just a little bit more. It really depends on the font that you're using. So now I'm going to choose the paint bucket tool, choose a black color, and then just fill it in black. And to deselect everything, you can just press Ctrl D or Command D if you're on a Mac. So now we're left with just the outline or the shape of the letter uppercase A and the lowercase a. So now I'm going to create another layer, and I'll rename this to top layer. So you'll know why I'm naming this top layer soon. And I'm going to fill this one in a light gray color. So just the lightest gray, not too light, but just to the point where you can tell the difference between this gray and a white color. So I'm going to choose this white gray and just fill that in. And then I'm going to press and hold Control again and click on the layer box of the bold letters layer. So now we have this outline here again. So now what we're going to do is use a tool called the masking tool. So what the masking tool does is that it will keep everything within a layer that's selected and hide everything that's not selected. So right now what's selected is the outline of the letters, but what I want to hide is the outline of the letters. So we have to inverse this selection. So go up to select and click on inverse. So right now everything is selected except for the outline, letters right here. So everything around it is selected. So now if I go into the top layer right here and then click on the masking box, And I'll also hide the bold letters right here. You can see it kept everything within that top layer, which is the gray, and hid everything that was selected. So now we're ready to start adding in some drop shadows. So in the top layer, you should see two boxes. There's the gray color box, which is the color that we filled it in with, and the outline of the cutout that we used. So anything that's black within this box is hidden. So this gray part here is hidden, and it reveals the white background behind it. And everything else which is white in this little box is kept. So all of the gray is kept. So now we need to add some drop shadows around this cutout. So you need to choose this masking box layer and then go up to layer, go down to layer style, and then go down to drop shadow. And right away you should see a shadow here. And you can edit the shadow any way you want. So you can make the opacity a little bit more higher. You can make the distance a bit more lower. You can make it spread out a little bit more, sorry. And you can also play around with the size as well. And you can also add a second shadow. So if you just click this little plus icon, it adds another shadow. So I always like to add two shadows. One is just the normal shadow that we have. The second shadow should be just a bit further to the top. And I also like to make it the size a bit smaller. So just slightly around that edge right there. So you can just see it there. And also make the opacity a bit higher as well. And let's make the shadow below it, just make the opacity a bit lower. So there we go. And I'll also make the distance for this a bit higher as well. And maybe also the distance for this to be a bit lower there. There we go, that's much better. And I'll make the opacity a bit further down. So you just need to play around with this until you get the exact effect of the shadow that you're going for. So play around with the opacity, distance, and the size. And usually I play around with two different shadows. Let me make the opacity for this a bit higher. There we go. So I think that looks pretty good there. So now just hit OK. And now we're ready to start drawing in the outlines within the shape. And we're going to draw in all of the outlines below the top layer. So we need a color palette for this. So the color palette that I'm going to use is from this website called the Canva color palette generator. So if you don't know how to create a color palette with this website, it's really simple, and I'll leave a link to another video in the description below. But all you do is just go to this link, and it's in the description below. Go find an image with some interesting colors, and I've left a link to this image in the description below as well. You can download this image by clicking on free download, click on upload, and it's going to go through this image, pick the best colors from this image, and it's going to create a color palette for you. So I'm going to start with this side here. So I'm going to choose this color first. So that's called the smalt blue. And I'm going to go into Photoshop, and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'll just name it smalt blue, which is the color name. And I'll choose the color picker tool by double clicking on it. And I'll paste in the color code right here. So there's the color. Then hit OK. And I'm going to choose the paint bucket tool, and I'm just going to fill that in. So that's the first color. Now with the second color, and I'll just go through this line right here. And I'm just going to copy this one, which is called Granny Smith. And I'll open it up on a new layer. And I'll name this one Granny Smith. And for this one, I'm actually going to draw in a shape. So just like before, I'm just going to paste in the color code and fill it in. But this time, I'm going to go to the pen tool. So if you click and hold on the pen tool, there'll be the pen tool at the top, freeform pen tool right here, and curvature pen tool. So this is the one that we want. So curvature pen tool, click on that. And we're going to draw in some curves right here. So for the first curve, so if you just click and just start drawing it, you can see it'll just start curving. So for the first few curves, I want it to be just right around the bottom right here. And I want to get it around the lowercase letter as well. So there we go, that looks good. And I'll just draw it all the way around like so. And I'll right click. So once you've fully outlined it all the way around, just right click inside of the selection that you made and click on make selection. And make sure this is on 0, and then click on OK. So now we have this selection. So now if I go to the Granny Smith layer, since we have this selection, if I press on the masking tool, it's going to keep everything that's selected and hide everything that's not selected. So you can see it kept the shape of that we selected, but everything else around it is hidden now. So just like before, I'm going to choose the Granny Smith layer masking box layer, go up to layer, layer style, and add a drop shadow. Now I'm going to add in the same drop shadows as before. So choose this drop shadow and just click on the other drop shadow to add that in. So that looks good, and click on OK. And now you just do the same thing with the next one. So this one's called Burning Sand. So let's create a new layer, and I'm going to type in Burning Sand, and I'm going to choose the paint bucket tool, go to the color picker tool, paste that in. So that looks good. And I'm going to slightly lower the opacity of the Burning Sand layer so we can see what's below it, so we can draw the outline in properly. So just like before, I'm going to choose the curvature pen tool right here, and I'm just going to draw in an outline just going around here. So we simply just lower the opacity so we can actually use it as a guide. So you can draw in any type of shape that you want, but I would try to avoid these sharp corners right here. So if you get a sharp corner like this, just press Ctrl Z or Command Z to undo and just make the curves a bit better. So it doesn't matter if you get these sharp corners here because we can't really see that anyway. So now, just like before, right click, make selection, and make sure this is on 0. And we're going to go to the Burning Sand layer and click on the masking box. And let's up the opacity on this one. So there we go. And just like before, we're going to add a drop shadow. So make sure you have the masking box layer selected. So this box selected. Oops. Let me just cancel that. So you should select this box, not this box. And we're going to go up to layer, go to layer style, go down to drop shadow, and add in both of the shadows right here. So now we just got one more to go, which is this one. So this one's called Tuna. So let's create a new layer, and I'm going to rename it to Tuna, and let's choose the paint bucket tool. Let's paste in the color right here. There we go. So that looks good. And we're going to lower the opacity, and we're going to choose the curvature pen tool again, just like before, and we're going to draw in another shape. So it looks good. So that's the last shape, and we're going to right click, make selection, and let's click on the masking box and let's up the opacity again. And for the last time, let's go up to layer, go down to layer style and click on drop shadow and add in both of the shadows and hit OK. So there we go. So that's how you create this type of effect with Photoshop. There's one last thing you can do just to adjust some things. So you can choose this layer right here, and you can kind of move these shapes around. You can resize them if you wanted to, just to make it a little bit better. So you can even flip it around if you wanted to as well. So just like that. There we go. So I think that looks good with the A like going like that. And also you can group all of these colors together. So if you choose the last layer, which is called Smalt Blue, and then press and hold Shift and choose the layer at the top, which is called Tuna, and then press Ctrl G or Command G if you're on a Mac, and you can group all of them together. So now there's this group right here, and I can collapse and uncollapse it. So I can rename this one to Colors, and I can now edit them all together. So if I select the group layer and press Ctrl T or Command T if you're on a Mac, now you can move all of them together like so. And you can also kind of flip it around and place it wherever you like and hit enter. So I think I liked it where it was before, just about there, and I'm happy with that there. So that's how you create this type of effect with Photoshop. If you have any questions, make sure you comment down below. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, also subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you in next week's video.